Arm Layton and I, Peter Apple, are recording deep into the night because we have to round up basically two mini World Series. Game three between the Phillies and the Mets, and game three, Padres versus Dodgers. And then in this episode, we are going to preview all of the game fours in the National League and the game threes in the American League. And it is all brought to you by BetMGM, the king of sportsbooks. Remember, folks, download BetMGM, whether it be on iOS or Android, and use promo code JustBaseball. Why? First bet offer up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if that were to lose. So it's a no-brainer. Download BetMGM, deposit at least $10 on your first wager after using promo code JustBaseball. If it loses, you get it all back in bonus bets. But remember, gambling problem, call or text 1-800-GAMBLER. Must be 21 or older. Terms and conditions apply. Before we get into anything baseball related, the hurricane in Florida is getting really, really bad. So for
Yeah.
anybody out there, right, there's not a ton we can do, but we're sending all of our love. And if anything anybody needs, like, feel free to reach out to any of us. Obviously, that's the easiest thing I can say on the podcast. I don't know. You're
Yeah.
all in my thoughts. And Aram, you're down there in Florida
Yeah.
right now. So give
Very
us the
lucky.
lowdown.
We're very lucky to be, south of that. But I mean, I haven't seen, living in Florida for my entire life, I've not really seen anything like this. So, I'm just bracing for everybody, just a couple hours north of us. And I know that we've got listeners scattered all over Florida as well. So if you're out there, thinking about you, please be careful. Please be safe. I know people are saying like, oh, it's going to weaken as it gets closer. Storm surge ain't weakening. Be careful. You can always come back. But I don't think this storm is going to be a joke. So, thoughts are with everybody, and please be safe.
Absolutely. Please be safe out there. But we got to recap these two games. I mean, it's a lot easier for me personally to do the show when I don't have in the back of my head just the Yankees crushing my every hope and dream. I get to watch two of the better series that I think we've seen in a very, very long time. So you have the recap of Mets versus Phillies. I have the recap of Dodgers versus Padres. Let's just get straight into it. Go ahead. Mets,
Oh my
Phillies.
gosh. Yeah, I mean, well, I just want to say I'm so thankful for these series. Like
Yeah.
it is just so special that we can have these back to back. It's like I usually feel like we get one game that's like one matchup that's sick, and then the next one's like, okay, it's fun, but it's the playoffs. But you don't usually get the back to back just punch of these incredible rivalries as well. So yeah, this was a heck of a starting pitching matchup, and I thought it delivered, even though the score may not really imply that. But when we walk you through it, you'll understand. Sean Manaea versus Aaron Nola, and it was the Mets that drew first blood in the second inning with a Pete Alonso solo shot opposite field, his sixth home run off of Aaron Nola in his career, which is ridiculous. Sean Manaea looked sharp right out of the gate on the other side, put up zeros, and then Jesse Winker doubled their lead with a 400-foot solo shot to right in the fourth inning, making it 2-0. Nola limited the damage from there and put up a zero in the fifth. And having been cruising aside from the two solo shots, Rob Thompson let Nola go back out there for the sixth, which is where the wheels kind of fell off. Mark Vientos led things off with a single. Brendan Nimmo worked a full count walk, and then Pete Alonso worked a full count walk, and that was the end of the line. Orion Kerkering took over from there with the bases loaded and no outs. Kerkering looked like he might be able to get out of it. He retired both Iglesias and Winker before Starling Marte came up with a big 2-out bases loaded single that played at 2. Kerkering would finally shut the door after that by getting Tyrone Taylor to ground out, but that left Aaron Nola's line at 5+ innings, 5 hits, 4 earned runs, 2 walks, and 8 Ks. The wheels really fell off there, but otherwise, thought it was a pretty strong outing from Nola for a team that has seen him plenty of times over the last couple years. But on the other side, Sean Manaea was even sharper. He kept trucking along into the seventh, where he set down Alec Boehm, JT Realmuto, and Austin Hayes in order. And Jose Alvarado on the other side took over for the Phillies in the eighth. He retired the first 2 hitters, but couldn't get the elusive third out because Mark Vientos lined one right off his foot. And I think that kind of messed him up from there, where he couldn't really find the strike zone. He walked Brandon Nimmo after that. Then he walked Pete Alonso, and Jose Ruiz took over for Alvarado with the bases loaded and 2 outs. And who other than Jose Iglesias came up huge with a 2 RBI single to make it 6-0. So it's such a big lead. The Mets actually gave Manaea a chance to start the 7th inning, but an Edmundo Sosa infield single was enough for Carlos Mendoza to say, okay, you know what, let's give way to the bullpen here. Phil Maton came in. He walked Kyle Schwarber and then gave up an RBI single to Bryce Harper, which finally put the Phillies on the board and made it 6-1. Unfortunately, that run was charged to Sean Manaea. Ryan Stanek took over from there to go get Nick Castellanos, but the man who once called Scooby-Doo his favorite superhero won the battle, lacing an RBI single to left field. That made the Phillies within one swing of the bat if they could get the bases loaded, right? It was 6-2 at that point, but that was as close as they would get. Able to get out of it from there. And then a Lindor RBI single made it 7-2 in the bottom of the eighth for good measure. And that's where it stayed as Ryan Stanek shut the door in the ninth. So the Mets won that 7-2. And the final line for Sean Manaea was 7 innings, 3 hits, that one earned run that came after he, left the ball game, 2 walks and 6 Ks. And a really special note on this start as well. Sean Manaea had found out that his aunt Mabel unfortunately passed away this morning, and he dedicated that start to her. You could even see after he was walking off the mound at the end of the start as he was taken out of the game, he kissed his hand and pointed up towards the sky when he was exiting. So that was really special there. And I mean, what a performance for Sean Manaea on what's already been an absolutely special year. But it felt like this was just another notch in what has been this career year for Sean Manaea.
There's so many different ways I can go, but I just want to start at the center and then we can kind of move out. And here's what I mean by that. If I was a Mets fan, I wouldn't feel the ground underneath me when I walk. I would be floating to work tomorrow because it's one thing to see, first of all, your team in the playoffs. Like, that's all great in itself. It's one thing to see your MVP pitching in and doing what he does, MVP type stuff that Francisco Lindor does. But to finally see Pete Alonso hit these home runs, right? They've been waiting for this even during the regular season, right? He's had great years in the regular season, but he hasn't been this prolific of a power bat in big time moments, in big time games. But it's not just him. They wanted the young guys to step up. Who stepped up? Mark Vientos has been an absolute stud, right? Brandon Nimmo is Brandon Nimmo. We know about him, but like Jose Iglesias
2 more hits today, 2 driven in.
is phenomenal. Jesse Winker is hitting home runs and firing up this dugout. Starling Marte, I thought he was washed. Nope. He's had a great year. Tyrone Taylor playing excellent defense in the outfield. Like, this team doesn't even have Jeff McNeil right now. And that's just the offense.
Yeah.
Sean Manaea throwing that type of performance against the Phillies at Citi Field. This guy was supposed to be a potential like 5 and dive guy. And he has fully developed into this cross-arming, bigger Chris Sale-esque type pitcher right now.
Yeah. It's
The
wild.
bullpen was solid. They've gotten great contributions from their starting pitchers. Like, this is the magic. This is what can propel you to a World Series when everybody is doing their part from 1 to 25. The bench, everybody. This is a phenomenal team effort. Like, I want to give all the praise to Lindor, but how can I? It's everybody. And that's the best baseball to watch if you're a fan.
Yep.
Anybody can get a hit at any moment. Any pitcher can shove, and any bullpen guy can shut it down. It's perfection if I'm a Mets fan.
It was great ABs all the way around too. I mean, like to your point, right? You get the RBI double from Lindor late in the ball game, but honestly, it was kind of everybody else. I thought that put together the fantastic ABs consistently. Vientos had 2 hits. Brandon Nimmo, he didn't have a hit, but he drew 2 walks and ended up scoring 2 runs. Pete Alonso, the home run, also walked twice. We mentioned the 2 hits from Iglesias and the home run from Winker, but it just seemed like everybody 1 through 9 was grinding out great ABs, and maybe the only guys that didn't, I think, do it more than once. We're playing great defense with what Tyrone was doing out there. He was the only, I think, hitless guy in the lineup. And then Lindor always doing what he's doing defensively as well. But I think a huge wrinkle in this thing also is what Sean Manaea was able to do to preserve this bullpen. I know that Edwin Diaz has not looked 100% like Edwin Diaz. And I think a big part of that has been just the high usage. And it's been huge to just be able to get him a little bit of rest. He didn't pitch yesterday, obviously, but now or 2 days ago, I should say, as people are listening to this, but now to get him an extra off day after throwing 39 pitches and then 25 pitches, like, he should be as fresh as possible now going into the next ball game. And then he'll have another day off, I think, after that. So he's set up in a spot here where you can get a little bit more of a fresh Edwin and then pursue that 4 or 5 out save again, instead of where if he had to throw today, I think it would have been a little bit aggressive to have him go 30 pitches again. They can try to do that. I still think they need to be a little bit more careful with him, but they've got him available. Ottavino hasn't thrown at all, but Reed Garrett again now has several
I
days
just
rest
want
as
to say
well.
something real quick. Ottavino may not throw at all.
Yeah, I don't think he is
Like
going to. I'm
this
looking at
Mets
bullpen
bullpen,
usage right now. It's
that's
crazy.
that's the only thing that I'm nervous about. Like I think a perfect game for them, and we'll preview game 4 is like Quintana for 6, Budo for 2 and a third, and then Edwin Diaz for the rest, and just get through it.
100%. And I think Reed Garrett's one of the guys that they're trusting right now. And obviously Stanek as well. Stanek only throwing 13 pitches and being able to get 4 outs was huge. So, I mean, they keep their high leverage guys rested, especially Edwin. And I think that's absolutely massive in this thing. To be able to get 7 out of Manaya really sets them up nicely. I think on the Phillies side, you know, I mean, you can't ever really count them out because of what this team is capable of, the way they play, their offense, and everything like that. But I think you could say some different things about maybe the offense on their end, where I don't know if everybody is out there giving you consistently good ABs. I think it's kind of frustrating watching some of the ABs that you're getting from some of these Philly players. If I'm not mistaken, Alec Boehm,
I was
I
just
saw
about to say that. Yeah,
five pitches and 4 plate appearances.
he would just swing it with whatever first pitch was there, and he would. I mean, he had a nice, he got thrown out trying to stretch a single into a double. Tyrone Taylor. I mean, what a play again!
Yeah,
Like what a play, right? He went over for that game. He was like the only Met that went hitless in this game, but he was an all-star level defender in center field in this game. Just everybody doing their part. But to your point, I wanted to bring up Alec Boehm because he came into this series really, really struggling. We talked about it yesterday and he just hasn't written those wrongs. Like this was a perfect game for him to get going against the lefty, big time moment they need him, and he just swung first pitch every time. He clipped one, but it didn't end up really mattering.
And I mean, they put Hayes in for the first time in a couple games to get the lefty. He didn't look good. Stott not being in this lineup, I get it's left on left, but I kind of wonder. I like Sosa being in there, so maybe they got to mix and match. But when you're looking at Johan Rojas all of a sudden, and I mean the back of the lineup can get pretty rough quickly when Alec Boehm isn't quite performing well, and then you're mixing and matching with guys that are struggling. You can kind of see now with the lefty in the lineup or on the mound against you, it's tough when Stott's out of the lineup with how clutch he has been in the postseason for them, and then not having Brandon Marsh in the lineup as well. Like against lefties, we talk about it with the Tigers, but the Tigers just have some magic going on right now. Against lefties, this lineup gets a little bit more top heavy, and that's also assuming that Schwarber and Harper won't have their production. I think kept at bay a little bit from the left on left matchup. So it just kind of shows you how it can get skewed into the other team's favor if you got a left-hander on the mound. And obviously Sean Manaea is a different level of left-handed advantage against left-handed hitters given the cross-body delivery. But still, I mean, the fact that the Mets will have another left-handed pitcher available to go here, like that does, I think, skew into their favor. Again, I don't want to eulogize the Mets or excuse me, the Phillies just yet, because they also know if they can just get to that game 5, you have the best postseason pitcher maybe of all time that can go for you. But it's going to be hard to get to that game 5, I think.
Yeah, it's going to be really hard to get to that game 5. On the Phillies side with Aaron Nola, just one thing that I put in my write up that I thought was really interesting that I didn't really know about Aaron Nola. So this season, on 6 days of rest or more, he has 4 starts, 17 innings, 20 earned runs going into that game. That's why we took Mets money line, right? Sean and I was at the top of his game. I didn't feel that the Phillies grabbed momentum, even though they wanted a walk-off, but I just didn't feel it. So I was like, the Mets can compete here, especially if Nola is not at the top of his game. Now, Nola had his strikeout stuff, but he just got clipped a couple of times. And I think the postseason Nola narrative isn't quite what maybe the media makes it out to be. Right? Nola has a 3.70 career ERA. He had a 3.70 career postseason ERA going into this. So he's basically just the same guy, high to mid threes type pitcher. And then after this start, that ERA is only going to inflate a little bit. Like Nola, and the reason again I'm bringing it up was I was a little bit surprised they went with Christopher Sanchez in game 2. I realized that the home road splits, Christopher Sanchez can, I guess, only pitch at home. That was kind of their plan.
Which is weird.
But to continue to push Nola down, I think that actually might have hurt him in this start. I don't know. What do
It's
you
like a
put any
pick your
stock in that?
poison thing, right?
Yeah.
Like which stat do you add more validity to or put
Yeah.
more importance on? Is it the home road splits of a Christopher Sanchez, or is it the Aaron Nola on an extra day's rest? And I'd imagine maybe Aaron Nola not even really knowing those numbers or really caring about it. But I said, I'm fine. I actually
Oh
want
yeah,
the
he
extra day.
doesn't care.
So then what do you say at that point? It's an interesting spot though, because I mean that was something that we talked about going into it, and then unfortunately it just seemed to be the case. But I will say, like, I thought he looked pretty sharp overall, and this was kind of like one of the classic Aaron Nola good starts where, like you said, he has the strikeout stuff, but a couple mistakes. And I think it was very clear that the Mets had a very specific game plan that they all really bought into, which was like ambush the fastballs,
Yeah.
because this is a guy that's going to throw the curveball as much as any pitch, and it's a really freaking good curveball. It's one of the best in baseball, and I think they were just really trying to put him in a spot where they weren't going to take any fastballs for strikes. And I think guys try to cover everything. You try to be ready for the curveball, and then you end up having fastball sneak by you and you take strikes, you get frozen on them. They were not letting that happen. And I think that helped where, yeah, it did allow, Nola to get some quick outs here and there, but it also allowed the Mets to ambush for two big swings. And I think that really ended up skewing things into their favor. But it's hard to place anything on Noah ultimately, because, the Phillies only scored 2 runs, and
Yeah.
those came in the eighth inning. Where I think if it was a little bit closer, you might not see Maton in that spot, anyways. So and maybe Mania doesn't even come out for that eighth inning. So from that lens, it's like, yeah, I think Noah could have been a little bit better in terms of not making those mistakes. But I mean, the Phillies bullpen still ended up giving up a couple more runs anyways. And this offense just needs to be better if they're going to win ball games. I mean, you can't expect to score 2 runs and beat the Mets right now with the way they've been swinging the bat really since the All-Star break.
Before we move on to the next series, because I want to wait on previewing game 4. I know we could do it right now because of course they're going to play today as we're recording, because it is even past midnight. But I want to do that all in one segment. So before we get to, I want to ask you about Sean Mania, and I want to pick your brain on him because Arm Layton won't come out and announce when he has a really good take, but I'll do it for him. For the OGs who've been listening, hopefully every episode from the beginning of the season, way beginning of the season, when we're previewing the next season, Aram brings up an arm that he's intrigued by. Ended the season really well with the San Francisco Giants, signed with the Mets. Aram was intrigued and broke that down. And that pitcher was Sean Mania. And now look at him. Now he has changed throughout the season, right? Different release point, up in the changeup usage. The sinker has been so much better. He's just evolved into a different pitcher, even at the late stage of his career. I'm saying late stage as in post 30 years old.
Yeah, he's 32.
What have you seen from the guy? Like what are these changes?
I mean, so the thing that stood out to me at the end of last year, and thank you for for giving me the pump there, I appreciate it. Was and I went back and actually was trying to find, because Peyton was who brought it up and said like, hey, I think you were really gushing about Mania, and I didn't realize we had a conversation, Jack and I, on that episode where he said, who would you rather have, Severino or Mania? Which is funny because those were both guys on prove it deals. They both end up being great. Severino was awesome as well. I said Mania, and Jack, I think, thought I was nuts. And turns out, I mean, Severino, arguably was just as good, if not better, through a lot of stretches. But the way he finished the year, and I think them putting him, he was in this piggyback role with the Giants and was really thriving there. You saw when the fastball velocity kind of ticked back up, and he was able to kind of drop the release even then a little bit. Wasn't this extreme, but a little bit, and get more carry. Everything was playing up off of that. And then the last 4 appearances of the year, they let him go back into the rotation, and the velocity held there and the life held there. And then all of a sudden, you're seeing the stuff play a little bit different. And he wasn't, carving nobody lineups. He finished the year by carving the Dodgers 7 shutty, and then the Padres 6 innings of 2-run ball and 8 Ks. So it seemed like something was kind of clicking there. He's always had very, very impressive extension. And he's always, I mean, he gets over 7 feet of extension, and he's always had some intriguing, components. So I just thought maybe with the right off season, keep building on that. He might be worth a flyer. And shit, he's been worth hell of a lot more than a flyer this year. It's been pretty cool to see.
And it was interesting seeing the development of like the cross body delivery. I mean, even on the broadcast, they were showing the difference in release point, how he was a little bit more over the top, and now it's Chris Sale-esque, where you could even see the Phillies are preparing for it before the game. They have, their pitching machine all the way to the other side of the rubber, just darting into the Phillies bats, and it's almost impossible to prepare for a guy like that. And I just thought he was masterful
He was
in a
amazing.
time at Citi Field where the Mets went 11-2 in September. Then they went on the road, right? They're playing all these road series. Even the first couple of games of this series are in Philly. They finally get back to Citi Field. And this is a team that has been ravaged by tough losses. Just getting a dagger stuck in their side and then their shoulder. And then it finally goes through their heart. And they needed this one. And they got it. And they didn't just get it, you know, oh, a little dink and dunks. Nice win, Mets. They dominated. Their pitcher dominated. Man, it was awesome. And shout out
Statement.
Sean Manaea. Shout out the whole team. I mean, what a
Yeah.
performance.
Yeah.
All right,
So
you ready?
we'll save the preview. Yeah. So it's all you now for another banger of a ball game. Even better.
Dodgers versus Padres. We start the scoring off early. Mookie Betts needed it, got it. Started the scoring with a home run to left field. I thought Profar robbed it, didn't
So did
he?
he?
Yeah, so did he. We moved to the bottom of the second for the second edition of scoring, and this is where the game got wild. It starts with a Manny Machado single up the middle. Then Jackson Merrill hit a grounder to first. Now, Freddie Freeman fields it. You can tell the foot injury, ankle, I'm not quite sure what it is definitely bothering him. He just
Oh yeah.
didn't look great, exited at the end of the game. So from his knees, tries to get him at second, and he hits the base runner, and Machado goes to third. That felt like he should have been called out immediately for running out of the base pass onto the grass.
I
I mean,
think you
I
can
don't know
do that. I think you can do that going from first to second base, which is crazy.
can you? Because
I
he
think
looked
so.
like it was,
As long as
but
you're not
it
avoiding a tag, I think you're good. I gotta break out the rule book, but I'm like almost positive,
I mean, you're probably right because the umpires did absolutely nothing. I'm
and
sitting
they
in
all
my bed
saw it.
watching, thinking to myself, what just happened? Of course he's out. Of course he ran out of the baseline. But you might be right. We have to check the rule book, but it felt just
It's
cheating.
weird.
But also, I mean, such a high IQ play by Manny,
Oh yeah.
knowing the ball was coming in on Freddie, knowing he had to try and get in the way of the throwing lane, and he did just that. And we're looking
And
at first and third now. And then Xander Bogarts, easy grounder up the middle, where we think we're turning two. Then Merrill beats Rojas to the bag, and then they didn't even get the out because Bogarts beat the throw. Then it just unraveled. David Peralta hit a two-run double down the line. Jake Cronenworth then singled. Kyle Higashioka hit a sac fly to center field to score another run. Then Luis Arias popped out, but Fernando Tatis Jr. then walked to the plate and hit an absolute mammoth home run to continue his just insane postseason run so far. We can go over the numbers in a bit. They're absurd. And then Profar, another just, of course, an infield single. I mean, that was the definition of this inning outside of Fernando Tatis Jr. Then Machado flies out to center. And after 2 innings, it's 6-1 Padres. And we go right back to the top of the third. We got more scoring by the Dodgers. Miguel Rojas starts off the rally with a single. Otani broken bat single, then Mookie singles. And Rojas didn't score on that, even though I think we all thought he was going to, but he was limping and then had to exit the game. Freddie Freeman then lined out to Profar. I thought it was a really nice play by Jerkson Profar. But then Teoscar Hernandez comes to the plate. Grand slam to center field against Michael King, who's coming off just a straight up dominant performance. It's 6-5 now. New ball game. And that was it.
yeah.
That was the end of the scoring. Bueller exits, goes 5 innings, 7 hits, 6 earned, 1 walk, no strikeouts. Michael King, 5 innings, 5 hits, 5 earned, 1 walk, 3 strikeouts. The Padres bullpen just shut the door. 4 innings, 1 hit, 6 strikeouts. Dodgers bullpen didn't allow a hit. 3 innings, 4 strikeouts. So we can start in a lot of different
Yeah.
directions here. We can start with Bueller start. We can talk about that insane inning. Where do you want to start?
I want to start with Walker real quick because I know we'll
Okay.
get into it and I'll forget, once we get into some other topics. But like what he did there, like that second inning was a disaster. And I mean he got 5 outs there. But to lock in, get out of that inning, and then give them five. I think was absolutely huge on multiple fronts. One, I think you look at that. I mean, and this is a dialed in Padres lineup, and they let him go back around a third time and see the meat of their order. And he even talked Dave Roberts off the mound. And Dodgers fans are saying nobody ever talks Dave Roberts off the mound. Roberts trusts Walker that much, and Walker's earned that trust. But those 6 earned runs are, it was a disaster. Those shouldn't even be
It shouldn't be
earned, but
6
it's just the
earned.
way it goes. It sucks.
The only
But
earned runs he should have given up are the Tatis home run.
yeah, and even then he should have been technically out of the inning.
Yeah.
So, but that was he'd tell you that that was not his best pitch 0-2, and Tatis made him pay, the hottest hitter in the playoffs right now and on the planet. So like for him to be able to give them 5 innings though, I mean he gave them a chance. They couldn't score again after the fourth, and I think really outside of that, yeah, you'd like to see more Ks and everything, but he was getting ahead, and then instead of having that put away pitch, he just had a lot of weak contact, and I think this was an encouraging start overall from the way that Walker also ended the season, that I think if you're the Dodgers and you somehow survive another time through the rotation, you got to go back to him again. But he at least saved their bullpen enough to where it can be all hands on deck for the next ball game, which it needs to be. So salvaging what could have been an absolute disaster game from them, I think, was huge. And I think ultimately though, you got to hope that you can get 1 run back after being able to get 4 in 1 swing. But this is what we talked about when the Padres assembled this super pen, is that the Padres can shorten games, and that's exactly what they did, right? Like Michael King gave you 5. He wasn't great. He gave up 5 earned runs, but they just needed to keep another run off the board. And that's exactly what they were able to do because they could go to Estrada, then Jason Adam, then Tanner Scott, then Robert Suarez. And I mean, even the one of the most talented lineups we've seen in baseball in a long time could not get anything going. They only had 1 hit against all of those relievers combined with 6 strikeouts. So this is the super pen that we talked about, and like this is what can be a difference maker. And then we just saw it in real time in this ball game.
Absolutely. I mean, we could go to so many other things next. Like, I want to talk about Michael King because
Yeah.
Michael King going into the start, right? Jack and I were talking about it yesterday. Dodgers see Michael King really well. Now, the Dodgers are just an incredible, incredible lineup, right? Even with a little bit of a banged up Freddie Freeman, like they can hit anybody at any given time. But Michael King, they've seen well all year, and I thought there was a chance that he was going to kind of have a rough start. That's why I thought I picked the Dodgers to win this game ultimately, just because I thought that Bueller would turn in a good start, and he
He
did.
did.
It's
Yeah.
just the Dodgers defense fell apart, but I was really impressed with the Dodgers' ability to stick in this game because that could have gotten ugly really, really quickly, right? All the stuff that happens in game two, the Padres just pile on, pile on. It looks almost as if the series is over. Then after the top of the second inning, or the after the bottom of the second inning, excuse me, it's 6-1. They could just fold. But the fact is that in the top of the third inning, they put up 4 runs. Thank you, Teoscar Hernandez. But Michael King just, I didn't even think that it wasn't he just had really bad stuff that game. I think the Dodgers just see him well.
Yeah.
But I think that they needed that win because they do see him well. And now, it's Knack versus who's even gonna pitch tomorrow? I don't think
So
we
I
even
was trying to look for. I don't. We don't really know yet. So that's the craziest part. I'm not even really. It's got to be Knack, right?
I think it's gonna be Knack versus maybe Cease bullpen game.
I have no idea what they're gonna do. And I'm like looking on Twitter, hoping somebody can give us a little bit of info. And I'm sure it'll be out by the time people are listening to this. But I mean, even with the Padres bullpen needing to be used here, nobody threw more than 17 pitches. Suarez threw 17. You only had 9 pitches out of Tanner Scott. You only had 15 pitches out of Jason Adam. You only had 13 pitches out of Jeremiah Estrada. So you still have Morahone very fresh. You still have Brian Hoeing available. Like he hasn't thrown in a couple days either, several days now by the time the game happens. So like, I mean, they've got still, I think, everybody available to go. So I'm gonna be fascinated to see how they approach this because I think they have options.
I want to also talk about Tatis because Fernando Tatis has a 2.200 OPS. It's the highest in a single postseason in Major League history with a minimum of 20 plate appearances. This is the Tatis, right?
Yeah.
This is the MVP candidate. this is the most electric player in baseball when he's on. And he's choosing a really, really good time to show the world truly who he is.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this was the guy that before Otani fully became this like superhero that baseball, of course, is now going to market every living drop of, which they should. Tatis was the savior, right? Like Tatis was the guy. Like, oh, MLB needs to market their shirt. They were marketing the hell out of him, and obviously some hurdles had come up, and availability wasn't there. And now he's back and he's taking over the postseason in a way that, like, I don't know if he's ever going to recapture that momentum that he had in terms of having every commercial and everything like that. But he's getting real damn close again, and he's, I think, getting to a point now where the way he's having fun with the fans, taunting them, how he's rising to the occasion in these big moments. And I mean, like we've talked about a few times, like this is the first time that we've gotten to see him now in the postseason with fans actually there, which puts in perspective just how the last few years have kind of gone. I mean, this is everything that you could want. And I feel like baseball's young stars are shining kind of across the board here, which has made this postseason so damn fun. But on the starting pitching side, they haven't announced it yet. I see a lot of speculation for the Padres that it could be Martin Perez, which would just be a really fun wrinkle in this thing. Like some people are saying it may be Perez. Um, I mean, I'd imagine it'd be with a quick hook with the
Yeah.
bullpen very available. But man, I'm excited to just see how both managers. This is going to be a nice little chess match, I think, between managers. And again, Walker being able to go 5 and match King's 5 was huge to be able to give, I think, Dave Roberts a few more chips to work with here and a little bit more availability within that bullpen. But it's going to be all hands on deck, I think, with this bullpen on that side as well. But they were able to keep Evan Phillips out of being used. Trinan has an extra day of rest after throwing 39 pitches a few days ago. Vesia still very fresh as well. So they're going to have their guys. And that's the one thing here. So with their backs against the wall, I think that they at least have the opportunity to go to their, some of their best arms. And, nobody threw a lot out of their bullpen either. So that does help.
My last point on this series is, now, I don't know if this is a good take, but I want to say it. I think they should move Jackson Merrill to the 3 spot in this lineup.
Mm.
I do. Profar's good, but he's a very, very aggressive hitter. And to be quite honest, like when I'm watching Padres baseball, like Profar feels like the 7 hitter for me. I know he's had a great year. I know there's been a ton of excitement. I know he's made some great defensive plays, but it almost feels like I'm watching the Texas Rangers esque when they would just throw Robbie Grossman in the 3 hole. Now, that is, again, an over exaggeration. Jurickson Profar has had a good enough season to deserve the 3 spot in this lineup, but Jackson Merrill is just too good.
Yeah.
Jackson Merrill, I mean, outside of Tatis, like I know Machado's great, but Merrill to me feels like the second best hitter in arguably the best lineup in the playoffs right now.
Yeah.
I mean, he's hitting 353. He's got an OPS near 1200. Every single at bat is strong. And I love him in the 5 hole because I just love him in general. But he became the 4th youngest player ever to be intentionally walked in the postseason. Only Juan Soto, Claudel Washington, and Andrew Jones were younger than Merrill. That's from our own account, Just Baseball. What do you think about that? Do you think I'm kind of overreacting to a very small sample? But you're a Merrill guy.
I mean,
So maybe you're overreacting too.
I think he can hit leadoff.
Or yeah,
I mean,
too.
he brings so much to the table. What's interesting is the like numbers by spot in the order can always correlate with just was he hot at that time, and I think that's kind of what's happening here with Merrill because some of his best numbers are in that 5 hole. What's crazy is they haven't hit him in the 3 hole all year long. He's only had 4 plate appearances in the 3 hole, 59 in the 5 hole, 243 in the 6 hole, which you definitely shouldn't be there, and the rest in the 7th, 8th, and 9th spot, which is wild. So I don't know. Like I think it's interesting, but especially with a righty on the mound, I do think Merrill is the better option. I think you look at Profar, he's a little bit better from the right side. Lefty on the mound definitely makes sense. But yeah, I mean, I think right now with the way that Merrill is swinging it, like I would want him up to the plate as frequently as possible. And Profar, yeah, he's been a dog. He's super clutch, but I don't think it's crazy to say that Merrill should be higher in the order and it should be a priority to get at bats. I mean, if you go back to the end of the regular season and include the postseason, this guy's hitting 338 over his last 20 games and 967 OPS. And if you shrink that to his last 15 games. He's hitting 373 with 1,066 OPS. He's a little bit more of an asset on the base paths. I mean, it doesn't necessarily have to be the 3 hole, but I don't disagree. Like he should be moved up in this lineup because he should be a priority to get ABs to.
Here's my thinking here. Tatis is on another planet right now. Like he's on another level. He's in a different solar system. Why why would anybody pitch to him ever? Because then you have Jerks and Profar behind him. I think every pitcher has confidence that they can get Profar out. He's swing happy, and those swings are not really producing anything at the moment. So if I'm a pitcher, I am not pitching to Tatis at all, and I'm going after Profar. And I think more often than not, it could work. Now, I'm not saying like this series, but maybe potentially in the next, right? Whether it's the Phillies or the Mets, if they go to face the Padres, let's say the Padres win the series, right? Of course, the Dodgers can still win, but just in my hypothetical world, stay with me. I would not pitch to Tatis, and then I can get Profar out, and I think that might work. Now, of course, Machado is there, but if you go Merrill, I feel like I have to pitch to Tatis because I don't want to pitch to Merrill with a guy on base. So that's my
Yeah.
thinking here. That's why I'd move him up. I think he's earned it. He's so good.
It's gonna be fun to see if they shuffle that at all, or if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of
I
thing.
think it's there in the mode of it ain't broke, don't fix it, especially with Schilt. Like he's rolling the same lineup out there. That's why I love Schilt. Like if it ain't broke, don't fix it. I totally get it. I'm more thinking about the next series and then potentially the World Series if they get there, where my game plan would be not pitching to Tatis. I'll deal with Profar. I think I'll get Profar out, and I think that would work. And I don't want it to work if
Yeah,
I'm the Padres. So
no,
that's
makes
where I'm at
sense.
there. Padres fans, let us know in the YouTube comments below. Do you think I'm crazy? Or do you think that Merrill should be moved up in the lineup? So do you have anything else?
That's really it for me. I think huge to see Mookie, swinging
Oh
it.
yeah.
I mean, they needed that, and I'm happy for him. I mean, I just annoying narratives, like, and I get it. Like, we got to talk about him, but same with Aaron Judge, man. I want to see him, have a couple good swings. So, every time he gets up to the plate, we don't have to hear about his numbers in the postseason. But that's up to him. So, it was nice to see Betts get going, and like we talked about, like if they're gonna have a chance, like Mookie's got to swing it, and Freeman's got to be available. Freeman was available, got the knock late in the game, and Mookie finally swung it. That gives them some momentum, at least offensively, I think, heading into next game. But at the same time, I'd be seeing ghosts with the bullpen that just put up, 5 zeros on me right there, or 4 zeros. Like that's you're going to see them all again. So it's either get to that starter quickly, or it's going to be hard, and you're going to have to try to do it against one of these incredible relievers that this Padres bullpen has.
All right. We're going to preview game 4 for the National League Division Series and game 3 for the American League Division Series. But before that, a quick break. All right. Guardians versus Tigers at 3:08 p.m. Eastern at Comerica Park. The series is tied up 1-1. Guardians won in incredible fashion in game 1, 7-0. And in game 2, it was 0-0 until Kerry Carpenter stepped up to the plate, hit a 3-run blast to give the Tigers a 3-0 lead. Now on the mound, we got Alex Cobb. Now Alex Cobb he hasn't had a start since September 1st. And he's only had a few starts all year because he's been recovering from an injury. Then it kind of flared up again, and he's just been battling back. And do you know, Arm, the last time he threw in the postseason? It's been 4,000 days, over 4,000 days. Last
Gosh,
postseason, 2013.
this is the most Guardians thing ever, though.
Most Guardians thing ever, and I think he's going to shove. Of course he is. And then after, you still have a bullpen. They got an extra day of rest. They're going to be totally fine. I think they're the best singular unit in the playoffs. And on the Tiger side, of course it's TBD. It's pitching chaos.
Yeah.
Will it be Reese Olson? Will it be Kiter Montero potentially opening? Will it be Brant Herter? Will it be some sort of opener? Then they go to either one of them. We have no idea. So that's why this game is pretty tough to break down because we're thinking to ourselves, is Alex Cobb going to feel healthy and shove? Or is he going to look rusty against this Tiger squad who
Yeah.
can jump on him quickly? Right? We saw the Tigers jump on Framber Valdez. If you don't have it, the Tigers can hit. I don't know. That's why this game is the ultimate toss up. It's going to be another one of these chaos laden games where it takes one big hit from somebody against the bullpen.
I think this could be an iconic Job moment or
Mm.
opportunity here. I don't know how much faith they have. I don't know what the plan is. I mean, and Hinch is going to be a little bit more old school where I'm sure he'd rather go to a vet, but there could be an opportunity here just based on how things kind of lined up and the usage and I mean Job is very rested. Kind of got screwed on some bad batted ball luck last time out. I didn't think he looked bad at all.
at all.
And I think just also shaking off a little bit of those nerves in the postseason, getting that out of the way. I mean, the positive side though is they got everybody still pretty available, right? When Scooball gives you 7, you're in a pretty good spot there. And Vest only threw 13 pitches and Brisky only threw 12. So they may have a bunch of different guys available, but that's almost more reason for me to feel like I could go to Job in a piggyback because if it's not great, okay, you cut it off after 1 or 2. If it's good, ride it out. See how deep he can go into this one and how much you can preserve the bullpen after already getting the bullpen advantage by having your starting pitcher go 7 innings. You got to try to hedge and chip away at the bullpen advantage that the Guardians have as much as possible. They've done that through the chaos, but I think having a guy that can go long mixed in there that really nobody's going to have like that, I think could definitely help them. So I'm very interested to see how they utilize Job, and I hope they throw some responsibility his way because I think he can rise to the occasion. But I mean, the way that last game ended, it's hard to say that there's anything other than momentum really swinging into Detroit's favor. And at home, I think it is a good spot where Job already made his debut. Could be a good spot for him to kind of get back out there and I think prove something.
Do you think they give him longer than an inning or 2?
I think it'll be like, how does it look?
Yeah.
If he goes out there and he shoves,
So
how do
you
you not let him out there for another?
so you think it's gonna be Job over someone like a Reese Olson or a Brant Herter or somebody like that?
Reese, I think, well, Herter did not look great last time out. Do they go right back to him and try it as an opener? I think they're going to open with somebody,
Probably
but
Holton again. It's always Holton.
it is. And Reese went what? How many pitches last time out? He threw 4 days ago. He threw 73 pitches. I mean, it's going to be the 4 days rest. They could go either way. I don't
Yeah,
know. It's chaos.
yeah.
The fact that they have 2 guys that can go long on the piggyback like that is crazy, and Reese was phenomenal last time out. So do you want them to see Reese again, or do you wanna give them Job, who, would be a different look? They could go in so many different ways. AJ Hinch is probably not sleeping a lick tonight and probably going through all the different, I think approaches in his head, which is a great advantage to have when, as you mentioned, the Guardians have the best bullpen in terms of talent. You've got, I think, the most flexible bullpen right now. I think in the playoffs with the different options and the different things that these guys can do.
Where are you at on this game? What's your prediction?
I really struggle to go anywhere other than the Tigers, kind of capitalizing on this momentum, right? I mean,
Yeah.
Emmanuel Clase finally looks human. Let's see how he bounces back off of that. But Alex Cobb, even if he's good, how long is he going? Is he going 6? If he goes 6, then
But
yeah,
here's the thing, if he goes 4, they hand it off to the greatest bullpen I've ever seen. I mean, not quite that, but, close.
yeah,
We'll probably have to dive into the offseason to see if that take has any merit, right? We'll look deep into the
it's
numbers
up
and
there.
figure out if it has to be up there. That's the
Does
thing, it's
does
like, I don't think it
Cade
matters
Smith
what he goes.
feel it a little bit now that he's thrown, 18 pitches, then 25, and now he threw again, and that'd be 3 times in 6
Do
days?
you
Like,
think
probably
so?
not. No, I
No,
don't think he
he's
feels
awesome.
anything. Uh,
Heron's great, Gaddis is great, Clase's still the man. Like, Clase ain't making that mistake again.
you'd think so. I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
I
you'd think so.
wouldn't
I'm kinda
expect it.
with you, though. I My love of the Guardians is telling me to take them because I do think, like, yes, the Tigers grab some momentum here, but, outside of that home run, I think the Guardians have played better baseball so far.
I
And
mean,
that's
yeah,
kind of what I rolled over into the Mets, even though the Phillies had that walk-off and then the Mets crushed them. So that's kind of what I'm hanging my hat on here with the Guardians, but it's different because the Mets then came home. And now the Tigers are coming home in front of their crowd. Like, they're gonna be so fired up for that game.
and what's interesting though is, I mean, the Guardians' offense looked great in game 1, and, like, you can't even really judge them in this game, right? Like
Yeah,
you just
I
can't.
mean,
Like it
what's the
doesn't
matchup?
matter. It doesn't matter. Like no one was hitting Tarek Skubal and what he was
Yeah.
doing. So like, I mean, I it makes it almost impossible for me to know because I feel like it's almost they got handed an automatic loss essentially when you have to face Tarek Skubal right now, and it doesn't really matter what your team looks like. Like it's just a matter of Tarek Skubal if he's going to pitch to his abilities, you kind of really don't have a shot right now. So this is I think the most unpredictable series we have. Like I felt very convicted with Mets over jeez, I'm getting tired. Mets over Phillies, and I was very convicted with Padres over Dodgers. That might not happen, but I at least saw it as like, okay, this is clearly what I think can happen. I have no freaking clue with this series because of the chaos, because of how unorthodox some of these teams are assembled, and because some of the guys that are in these lineups that are good baseball players, but I don't even really know what to expect. Even like Elaine Thomas, I don't know what to expect. And he crushed that ball off of Reese Olson. Like Justin Henry Malloy, 2 hits last time out. Like I don't really know. They don't use their best hitter in the starting lineup if there's a lefty, but then they deploy him in the perfect spots every time, and he does something crazy. Like I just don't know with this team. I have no idea. And I know whatever I predict in the series and whatever I've predicted with the Tigers in the postseason has been wrong. So I think Tigers fans are probably pissed if I say they're going to win. I know we've got some friends that are listening that are probably like, no, Arm, don't. So I think the Tigers are going to win, which is probably why the Guardians are going to win.
Let's do this because this is the ultimate toss-up game. Which side do you want me to take? We'll just both take the opposite side, and one of us is going to end up being right. What
I think
side?
you have to. You're the Guardians guy. You
I'll
got to
take the Guardians. Give me. I love my gritty Tigers. I love our Tigers followers and listeners. I do. I've had great moments on the internet. I'm going to be rooting for the Tigers. I'm just going to be rooting for chaos in this game. Like
Yeah.
I love the Guardians. I've always loved the Guardians. They've stuck with me, but then the Tigers have grabbed my heart too. My heart is split in two. I'll take the Guardians. You take the Tigers. One of
Uh,
them's going to win, and it's going to be
I mean,
awesome.
Matt Boyd went 4 2/3 shutty
Yeah,
against him. Like, don't forget that. Like, if it weren't
yeah.
for the clutchest swing and like I've ever seen, essentially off of the
Since Pete Alonso against the Brewers like
yeah,
3 days ago,
a few days
this
ago.
playoffs is so awesome.
But dude, Harry Carpenter was the first left-handed hitter to hit a home run off of Emmanuel Clase this entire year. And
Pete
like,
Alonso hit it off Devin
yeah,
Williams.
I know that is crazy.
It's like it's
Playoffs are
insane.
crazy. So I mean, if not for that one clutch swing, like the offense was not great. Otherwise, like that part is what makes me a little bit nervous.
That was
But
their first runs in the series, was that home run. But then the
that
Guardians also got shut out in
yeah,
game
but that was
2.
Tarek Skubal. It doesn't count.
No, but then they didn't score off the bullpen after.
Yeah, that's true. Vest and Bo Brisky, they're probably the two guys I actually trust the most
Yeah,
out of their pen right now. I have no freaking clue, so I'm
yeah.
gonna roll with the Tigers. But like, man, I don't even know what this game's gonna look like either. I have no idea. I just can't wait to find out.
Phillies versus Mets. Mets can close it out. We got Ranger Suarez taking on Jose Quintana. I have a bet in this game. I bet the Mets money line. I think the Phillies are done. So the Phillies in the bank are as good as any team in baseball. They had over 50 wins at home. They were one of the best home teams. On the road, they went 41-40 this year. All of their splits down, down, down on the road. And we can tell the Mets caught fire. They were incredible at Citi Field to end the year. And in their first chance at that stadium, they dominated from start to finish. Right? This has been a series, and this has been a Mets team where it doesn't really matter if they give up the first run because they keep winning no matter what. This game was not like that. This was domination from start to finish. And right, we talk about momentum, right? The Phillies just won that game in incredible fashion. And then what happens? They lose it. On the Phillies side, in terms of Ranger Suarez, because it's dangerous to fade Ranger in the playoffs. I mean, that man's got something special. He is a special pitcher
He needs
when
to
the
find
lights
it
are
though.
turned on. And that's the thing. I've said this about Ranger Suarez for 3 years, ever since we started from Project to Plate days. When Ranger is on a heater, you take him. When Ranger is not, that's where he can get beat. In his last month,
I would say last 10 starts I got. What does the last month look like?
6.04 ERA, his last start too, because with Ranger, I'm looking
That's the
for
last 10 starts is a 6.04 ERA too, which is crazy. 47
nice.
and 2/3 innings, 32 earned. Like
And
that's not
here's
great.
what I was looking at. Was the last start good? Did he have one start to kind of propel him into the playoffs?
No.
It was arguably his worst.
Mhm.
2 innings, 6 earned against the Nationals. Quintana on the other side hasn't allowed more than 2 earned runs in 7 straight starts. In the month of September, 2 earned 25 innings. 2 earned 25 innings. Then what does he do? Shuts out the Brewers, who just crush everybody, right? People are throwing the Brewers aside. That Brewers team was great. They were great. And they had so many hitters in the lineup who could hit. And Quintana shut them down. I'm looking at a rested Diaz. Now
Well,
I
we were
know
just
the
talking about the
Phillies got
lefties.
Hoffman and
We were just talking
Yeah,
about the lefties and how that kind of makes the Phillies lineup look a lot thinner. And by the way, slash line against Ranger Suarez in his last 5 starts, 330, 402, 511.
that's not going to play. I mean, who
Not
knows?
great.
He is a wizard.
That's the thing.
He
He could
could
go
come
out
in
there and
and
absolutely
dominate.
hit.
Of course he could. Like it's Ranger Suarez. I'm giving him the benefit of the doubt here. The
And
thing is, like BetMGM prices outs line arm at 12.5. They think he's
oof,
going
so
4 innings.
they think he's going 4. What's interesting though is he's had, the last time he threw was the 27th. And I think a big reason why he was struggling is that velo started to slip a little bit. When you're that deception guy, 92 versus 90 is a big difference.
Oh yeah.
And he was closer to 90. He might not be right back up to 92, 93 this time out though either. So we'll see. And even then, like there was a couple starts where he was throwing harder and it wasn't great. But last time out against the Mets, second to last start of the season was one of his more passable. The 2 earned runs were both solo shots, and he was sitting 92 in that start, which was a tick up from where he had been, and 2 ticks up from where he had been a couple starts before that. And he went 5 innings, a 2-run ball. So it's going to take, I think, a very adrenaline filled performance here, but I can't count this dude out completely. But I'm with you. I think the way that it matches up, arrested Edwin, the Mets at home, all indications point towards the advantage being towards the Mets and them being able to close this thing out. My prediction was Mets in 4 going into this thing, but that's exactly why Ranger Suarez is going to go 7 and shove. But I'm with you. That's how I see it, and the playoffs never like completely go how you see it, but I mean, that just seems to make too much sense with the way everything lines up. And that's why it was so big that Mania did what he did, because you can now go to, Edwin for not only the save, but maybe 5 outs again or whatever you want to do there.
You know when I knew I was going to be on the Mets money line in Game 4? When Sean Manaea struck out Bryce Harper on 3 pitches. That was a big AB.
Yeah.
And just sat him down. And I'm like, all right. Because Bryce Harper always comes up in that moment. And the fact that he didn't and sat down on 3 pitches, going just to get the last 2, sweeper on the outside corner, and then just going a little bit farther and him just flailing. Like, I was just like, okay, like, I mean, they're going to need big time hits from Harper because Trey Turner is doing fine. Schwarber might lead the game off of the home run, and then, he might draw his walks, but it's not like he's firing on all cylinders right now. It's not the same Alec Boehm. Like, Castellanos is still doing his thing, but it doesn't feel like we have the same passion from the Phillies that we might normally have. And then being out of the bank with how bad that they've been on the road, with how good the Mets have been at home, I think the Mets roll here. I think it's over. Because on top of it, while it is an elimination game for Philly, and they're going to be throwing every wrench into the fire or iron into the fire, I don't know, it's freaking almost 1 a.m. The Mets do not want to go back to Philly and have a date with Zach Wheeler.
No, I mean,
They do
that's the
not
thing.
want
And
that.
that's the thing. The Phillies know that if they can just somehow extend this thing 1 more game,
Oh, yeah.
right back into their favor. So that's the thing, is they know they just need to get 1. It's not really 2 in their minds probably. And that's what gives me a little bit of pause of like, they're going to use the bullpen. They're going to use everybody. It's all hands on deck, and they just know they need to get to that last game. And once they do, it's advantage Phillies all of a sudden, just like that.
And here's the thing. Now, Phillies fans may disagree with me, but this is my opinion on the Phillies. Their backs were against the wall against Arizona last year.
Yeah.
They didn't come up to the occasion, right? They're really good when they have all the momentum. When they're in the bank, they feel like the superhero or they feel like the underdog, right, against the Braves. That's when the Phillies are at their best. Not as the favorite, right? Not without that crowd. That's why I feel like it's the Mets here. And I think it's the Mets in kind of a rout. I think they jump on Ranger early and then just coast to a win.
We'll see. I hope it's closer, but I could see it somewhere similar like that too.
Yankees Royals, we got Clark Schmidt taking on Seth Lugo. It's my favorite pick of the postseason here. Taking the over.
The over.
Love
You
runs
didn't
in
like
this.
what you saw from Clark Schmidt in September?
No, I did not. Did not look sharp. Put up a 3.65 ERA, looked fine, but just didn't look like the same Clark Schmidt that we were used to. And Clark Schmidt is a very talented pitcher. And then you have Seth Lugo on the other side, who in his last start against the Yankees threw 7 shutout innings. But the start before in Kansas City gave up 4 earned in 7 innings. Now seeing him for a third time, I also think that I like these bullpens on him, but like, do we love him? And
I don't
seeing him a
love the
third
Royals back.
time,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
another reason I love it too is Kansas City is the 4th best ballpark in terms of park factor on Baseball Savant, and we got a little bit of wind blowing up, but that's just my bet. How do you see that this game ends up from a winner or a loser? Because I don't want to throw my bias in that. I think the Yankees are going to win. I think the
Yeah.
Yankees are going to win. But
I mean, this is going to be a great test for Lugo, especially after how he looked last time out. I mean, what he did to the Yankees, can he do that again? I know a lot of these Yankees hitters have not performed great against some of these Royals pitchers, but it's not like Lugo is the big swing and miss guy. And I think usually those are the guys that can really dominate in the playoffs. But he was a swing and miss guy against the Yankees last time out. So I don't know. I'm a little bit worried about Clark Schmidt and how he does there, but again, I think the advantage with the bullpen that the Yankees have obviously hedges that. Um, I mean, Jazz said that the Royals got lucky though, so if you think about it that way, um, I think the Royals make this thing close. I don't know
definitely. Oh,
over
they're
under
definitely going to make
whatever.
it close.
I think this is going to be a stressful game for you, which I love, and I think you're going to be worked up, and I think it's going to be a late big clutch hit by somebody on one side to ice it. I think it'll be the Yankees. I think the Royals are going to get up early, and I think Lugo is going to cruise a little bit, and then I think that run into a little bit of trouble, and then the bullpen gives it up, and the Yankees are just too much there. I feel like this could be the game where we finally get that big Aaron Judge hit too. But I think Royals put the pressure on, and then ultimately the Yankees overcome it late. But that's just my guess.
I'm coming out with a prediction for this game. This is not going to be the Aaron Judge game. I think it'll be fine. Juan Soto.
Juan Soto game.
It's going to be the Juan Soto game. I think he's going to hit a home run. I think
Okay.
he's going to hit a double. Like, I think he is going to go crazy. I think this is the game where he steps up. Like, he is the postseason hero. And he's coming off an 0 for 4 performance in the playoffs. Like, we do not see that. We've seen it plenty of times with Judge, and Judge comes into this game 0 for 8 against Seth Lugo in his career. So I don't think it's going to be Judge. I think Judge might, go yard because he has 58 on the season and he can do it at any time against anybody.
I think
Maybe.
he's I think he gets to the bullpen with a clutch hit. I think that's where we finally see it.
Exactly. I think this is like a 4 for 4 type game from Soto where he doesn't get out once. And I think that propels the Yankees to win. I think it's not I know I'm calling for a Juan Soto game, but I think it's going to be a similar score to game 1, 6-5 Yankees. Real close up into the end. Royals keep battling and it takes just in the bottom of the ninth inning, we get the last out and all Yankee fans have a sigh of relief, and Royals fans are thinking, well, we could still win game 4, and they probably do, and the series goes 5.
Yeah, I mean, I could see. I'm hoping for chaos in this one. I would love that because I think Yankees fans need to sweat this one out, and I just
Oh, yeah.
wouldn't sleep on this Royals team that's clearly
No,
fearless.
they can definitely beat us. No doubt about it.
Yeah,
100%.
Bobby's not even doing anything yet.
Yeah.
Wait for Bobby to get back home. That's all they need, right? Also, great timing before we finish the episode. Dylan Cease will start Game 4 for the
Wow.
Padres, according to Kevin Acee.
Okay, so before we talk about that game, pick a winner. Royals, Yankees. Who you got?
I got Yankees coming up clutch late. I think Royals are in control out of the game. You say the season's over in our company chat, and then clutch hit late in the ball game, and you forget that you thought the season was
Season's
over,
back
and that's what
on.
happens. Yes,
Correct.
yes,
No, I agree. It's going to be a very emotional day for me.
yes.
So I hope everybody, cares a lot about my emotional well being. I'm looking at Baseball Savant right now, and it's TBD, TBD, but I think it's going to be Landon Knack versus Dylan Cease.
I mean, it's wide open to me. You flip your coin with Dylan Cease, you have no idea. And I think Landon Ackman, he can pitch.
I
Like
know he
when
can,
he's
yeah.
on and he's hitting his spots, like he's tough. He can be a guy that is locked in and can match you 0 for 0. But I mean, the Dodgers now will have seen Cease 3 times since September 25th. Um, I mean, That's not a lineup that like everyone talks about seeing a guy a bunch of times. The Dodgers are a lineup that it's really an advantage for because they're veterans and future Hall of Famers. So they are going to use that intel even more than the average hitter is going to. So that does concern me a little bit. And I think Knack is capable of giving them a quality start, and they do have a lot of the bullpen available. I think this Dodgers team is too good to just go down like that. I think they're gonna extend this thing, and Knack, even if he gives them 4 or 5 innings of 2, 3 run ball, I just have enough faith in the Dodgers offense to be able to match that, and then the bullpen. I think they can get close to matching it. It's just going to be, can the Dodgers hitters get to that bullpen, or can they get to Cease before the bullpen even takes over, or make that bullpen take over too early? So I think they can get Cease out of there before the fifth, which is possible. They're in a good spot, and I'm going to lean Dodgers on this one.
I think the series is over. I think the Padres win. And I agree with you. Knack can pitch. And the Dodgers are going to go as far as Ohtani can take them. And Ohtani owns Cease, right? We saw the home run in game one. Like, he owns Cease. So I think he's going to have a really good day. And when Ohtani's having a really good day, more often than not, that team is going to lose. Here's my issue. I think Landon Knack has had a good year, and I think he is a good pitcher. That's probably the toughest start you could ask of a young pitcher ever.
Yeah.
Going into San Diego to avoid elimination with that crowd, with Tatis as hot as he is, I just think it's going to be too much for him. But to your point, I think the Dodgers perform well off Cease, and I think it's one of those games where it's completely decided in the 7th, 8th, and 9th. I have too much faith in this Padres bullpen. I think they're the ones throwing up the zeros, and the Padres get one last run off the Dodgers, and it's like a 4-4 tie going into the 7th, 8th, or 9th, and whoever scores that last run, I just have more faith that the Padres get it done, and they end up winning the ballgame.
You don't believe in Ben Kasparius?
That's a name you just made up.
He's available for long relief.
I mean, you know what I'm like? Are we
I
back
I
in
mean,
Knack on the road in San Diego
I
right now?
I don't disagree.
I
Padres
do.
were my
I
pick.
agree, though. Knack is a good pitcher. Like, I'm not debating it. I'm just saying this spot is
A
impossible.
very tough spot. I just wonder if even 4 innings of 3 run ball could be enough if they can bounce Cease. That's they need to turn this thing into a slugfest,
But
and
also,
I
we're
think they got a
overlooking a
chance.
Cease bounce back. This is still in
That's
Cease.
the thing. It's still in freaking Cease. He could just go
Yeah.
out there and shove. But they're seeing him the third time since the 25th of September.
Crazy.
There's so many different ways this could go, and
Because
that's why I
also,
love this series. But I mean, I wouldn't be surprised at all with the momentum that the Padres have right now, it being in Petco, and the fact that I thought the Padres were going to win this series anyway, and I know you did too. Like, I could see them shutting the door, but with Mookie seeing a couple go through, with
yeah.
Freddie just proving that he can at least hit.
But
Um, I,
Freddie, did he prove that he can at least hit? Like, I know he looked good in that game, but he limped off the field. I mean,
yeah, he
this
can't
guy's
run.
clearly injured.
He can't run. He can hit, I think, but he can't run. So he's better than whoever else they'd put out there. So I'll take 50% of Freddie Freeman. That's an asset still compared to
Oh, definitely.
whatever else you'd roll with. But Miguel Rojas might not be available. It's not a huge loss, but it's just gonna be interesting to see how they go about it. I I I think it's a coin flip, but all side on the Dodgers just desperation with their talent, being able to fight off elimination, and then I think Game 5, like that's where the Padres will just be a little bit more well rested, set up, and close it out.
Just don't think the Padres want to go back to Los
I don't
Angeles,
think
the
so either.
Chavez
I don't
Ravine.
think so either, especially after all the shit that went down. I don't think they want to go back there at all.
All right, it's 1 in the morning, so that means that the podcast is over. Hopefully, everybody enjoyed this episode of the Just Baseball Show. A bunch of different roundups. Of course, we'll be back tomorrow to recap all 4 of these incredible games. Clear your schedules. Watch playoff baseball all day long if you can. The best way to support this show is to, first of all, if you want to spend a couple of shekels, go get yourself some Just Baseball merch. I'm rocking the hat. Arm's rocking the shirt. Thankfully, Jack's not on the podcast, so he doesn't have to embarrass us by not wearing merch. Don't be like Jack. Go get your Just Baseball merch in the episode description. Best way to support without spending a dime. Just rate and review. Spotify, Apple Podcasts, 5 stars. Best way to help out this show. Continue to grow, as well as hitting that subscribe button and like button on YouTube. And of course, in the YouTube comments, give us your predictions. Let us know what you're on. Who do you like to win? Do you disagree, agree with any of what we said? Let us know. For Arm Laden, I am Peter Apple. We are going to bed. And with that,
Yes.
thank you, everybody.